After making a lot with the Nationals in free agency over this past week, who could be your Washington Nationals breakout player in 2025? I've got an idea. He's young, and he'll be paying that hot corner.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I am your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, check us out over on Twitter. And of course, while you're at it, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including over on Apple, Spotify, and of course on YouTube as well. Hit that subscriber button, drop a thumbs up, leave a comment, or hit me up on Twitter at RyanClary11. Later on in today's program, the Nationals, it is their 20th anniversary in 2025. They've made some cool announcements that we'll kind of discuss because, again, right now, not much happening with the Washington Nationals. So, got to talk about the 20th anniversary and what will be coming up our alley. Second segment, what is the state of the Nats bullpen? Just about 2 weeks ago today, the Nationals moved off Kyle Finnegan and essentially just said, we're good without your services. So we've got a couple guys to break down here, and ultimately, who do they need to add? We'll have some names for you later on in today's show, but we start off discussing who will be your breakout Washington Nationals player. And of course, I'll tell you after I tell you guys about today's sponsor, which is Gametime. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So we get into it with this. Who could be your breakout player for the Washington Nationals in 2025? My answer is Jose Tena. And I've been talking a lot about this over the course of this offseason. The Washington Nationals, they had their future at third base with Brady House. But we also kind of forget the fact that Jose Tena was actually pretty damn good for the Nats this past year. And kind of getting into the numbers with it, he only played in 41 games. And overall this season, played like 3 games with the Guardians. He's lost his prospect status. So this is someone who's already has a year of control under his belt. I think Jose Tena could be kind of one of those guys where he's just a forgotten prospect. Like, you're not seeing him in the prospect rankings, but this is still someone who will be 24 years old this coming opening day. From what I saw this season, is he going to be your third baseman of the future? I don't really think so. But his bat plays. Jose Tena does have the offensive production of someone who could play second base. Or maybe you kind of experiment with him and throw him out in left field. I would think if the Nationals were savvy enough, you would try moving him around the diamond. Because Jose Tena was always a middle infielder. That's what he was brought up with the Cleveland Guardians. They didn't have any position for him up in the majors, so they decided to move off him when they traded for Lane Thomas. Jose Tena was not like the premier guy in that trade. It was Alex Clemmie. But Jose Tena is still someone that they were very high on. And Jose Tena is still someone that I think the Nationals in particular think that he could be a major piece to this puzzle. Now, getting into it and really what was most impressive and what was least impressive about Jose Tena, let's talk about the good real quick. One of the better things I saw about Jose Tena was his bat. Simple as that. He had a 25% line drive rate, which for someone in his rookie season, quote unquote, that's pretty good. He's putting the ball in the air. He had some power as well. In his first game, he hit that walk-off, and everyone was like, oh my God. And even then, the first month of August that he was here, he was on fire. In the month of September, cooled off a little bit. But I look at Jose Tena as a building block, someone who could be something for this Nationals team. And when I mean something, listen, Brady House is going to be the guy at third base. He will come up at some point in 2025, whether it's early on or even later on this season, and he will hopefully make an impact in the bigs. But don't forget the fact that the Nationals are going to want to keep their eyes on Jose Tena. He's not going to be someone who will just be playing utility spot, even though he could be that because he's got ability to play up in the middle infield and as well as third base. But this is also someone who, again, if you look across multiple different leagues down in the minors, in AAA, he killed the baseball this year. And he had one of the higher exit velocities in all of AAA, up there with James Wood and guys like that. He's got a legit potential power bat, and that tool right then and there for a corner outfield or for a corner infield spot is pretty ideal. Now, the makeup of Jose Tena is one of those things where we just don't know where this guy will fit. But I just have a feeling at some point he will fit in this puzzle and he will be a building block for this organization to hopefully make a postseason run in 2025. If I were to bet right here and there, I would think Jose Tena at this point might be like your left fielder. Now, if you look at the outfield right now, you've got Jacob Young in center field, you got Dylan Cruz in right field, and you've got James Wood in left field. That's a pretty loaded outfield right there. And you also have Robert Hassel down in the minors. You've got a couple different pieces as well. Maybe the Nationals spend on Anthony Santander. Who knows? But one thing is for sure is they will have to find a spot for this guy. He's not going to be just some pushover prospect. If I'm the Nationals, I'm trying to get his bat in an everyday lineup kind of situation. Whether he's the DH, whether he's playing second base, whether he's playing every day at third base, or if you try to move him in the left field. I would try and get his bat in the lineup every single day. He's got that left-handed swing, in which, in my opinion, it's a very smooth swing as well, if you kind of look at from the mechanical side of things here. And he's not even a free agent until 2030. He's not even ARB eligible until 2027. He's going to have plenty of opportunities with this Nationals team to begin this season. And by the way, Brady House this past year, while he was good in AA, he wasn't all that impressive in AAA. I could see a possibility where Brady House struggles to open the season, then Jose Tena, who will be on the Major League roster, who will likely be your opening day third baseman unless something unforeseen happens. I could see Jose Tena kind of taking this job and maybe pushing the timeline back a little bit for Brady House. Now, I do want to get into the House side of things here, because if this were to happen, the Nationals have a lot of eggs in the Brady House basket. He was a first-round pick. He's one of your top prospects. And overall, he's got more ability than Jose Tena does. But just because those things are both true does not mean one will just completely fall out and fail. I think there is a position for Jose Tena and as well as Brady House. And if those things can kind of cooperate with each other and stay true and both these guys stay healthy, then I think the Nationals have a very good situation here brewing. Whether you have Jose Tena just kind of move all over the infield and as well as the outfield, you experiment with him out there, you have him DH, get 4 at-bats every single night. I think that's kind of the rate that we would like to see from this kind of guy. Because again, we all get lost in the prospect rankings. You get lost in the ability of some of these guys. But Jose Tena has proven it at the major league level. And while he did kind of slow off at the end of the season, where he finished with a 668 OPS, remember those first few weeks where he was killing the baseball. He was quite literally the best hitter in this Nationals lineup in the month of August. If you can kind of have that same production, which I think is very possible, I don't think he'll have like a 900 OPS, but I think you could easily have an 800 OPS up in the majors. Fix some of the holes in his swing, drive the ball to both sides of the field. We could be talking about a serious, legit kind of guy who could, you don't really see these things all too often, but just comes out of nowhere, then he's going to be a big piece to this Nationals team. And Mike Rizzo has done this in years past. He has kind of brought guys up through the system, whether it be via trade or just developing them on their own, and they've played big roles with this team. I would not be surprised if Jose Tena is one of those guys. And if he is, it's a big win for this Nationals org. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next, let's talk about the state of the Nats bullpen. You moved off Kyle Finnegan. So is there a closer on this roster that we could trust? Well, we'll answer that and more about the Nats bullpen after we tell you guys about our friends over at Gametime. And I've told you all about Gametime before. Just a few weeks ago, I went over to the Caps game. And when I went to the Caps game, I did not have a ticket, but I can tell you this. I opened up Gametime. As soon as I opened up Gametime, I saw their flash zone deals and the super deal, of course, from my app right there at Gametime. And you can, of course, when you open up Gametime, it's not just sports. It is comedy, theater, and all other events right here in this area that is curated just for you. And they have Gametime picks. That's curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. And of course, they have seat views so you can see exactly where you'll be sitting, see if there's any obstruction whatsoever right there from your app. When I open up Gametime, it's 2 clicks and bam, I have my tickets rocking right into that Caps game or the Wizards game, whatever it is. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Yes, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now let's get into the state of the Nats bullpen as the Nationals moved off of Kyle Finnegan just a handful of weeks ago. And I do want to touch on this real quick about Kyle Finnegan since we're talking about the bullpen. The Washington Nationals, they still have the opportunity to bring him back, and which is still a relatively realistic idea. Now, we haven't really heard much about this move and why the Nationals made it happen. Like, are they trying to free up some money in order to spend? I don't really think that's going to be the issue, in my opinion. Like, at this point in time, I'm relatively discouraged about the Nats and how they will spend. And kind of getting into the Finnegan move, like, if you're not going to pay him the $9.5 million or $8.5 million, whatever he was projected, if you're really going to nickel and dime it from that perspective and save, like, I don't know, a couple $100,000, $1 million, whatever it was, that doesn't really thread the needle for a good offseason. Like, if you're trying to save $1 million, that's really, it's a lot. But from a baseball perspective, from spending money on this, you have to be discouraged. And I think that kind of just goes into the disappointment that a lot of Nationals fans are feeling right now. Like, you're seeing all the Juan Soto rumors, who, by the way, he's expected to sign over the next week, which will be insane. But the state of the Nats bullpen now without Kyle Finnegan, it's in a different situation. You're missing your all-star closer. And again, it is realistic for the Nationals to bring him back on a multi-year deal, but I just don't really see that happening. I think the market out there for closing pitchers is pretty thin. And I think Kyle Finnegan will go to a contending team. Now, will he be a closer there? I don't know. But I think he's proven enough that he can be a winning guy in your bullpen. He can be a setup guy, or he's got the potential to be really whatever he wants to be. And maybe I could see like a team like the Rays going out there and spending big on him, giving him a 3-year deal worth, I don't know, $28, $29 million. I could see any team doing that for Finnegan because, again, all-star closer. Like, it's not nothing. Even though I don't think Kyle Finnegan was really all that great. Like, I think he was good, but he's also relatively replaceable. But is he replaceable with guys on this roster? Let's answer that question now, because the state of the Nats bullpen, there's a lot of young talent, but also a lot of guys who haven't really proven as much. I want to start off with Mason Thompson, though. Someone who I was really high on back when the Nationals traded Daniel Hudson in 2021, and you got back in return Mason Thompson, who was a flame-throwing right-handed pitcher who I thought could be a Nats closer someday. Well, through everything that we have seen, Mason Thompson in 2022 was one of the most inconsistent pitchers out there. Started off well, kind of did okay in the middle part of the year, ended real rough. Mason Thompson, though, he's coming off Tommy John surgery this year. He should be 100% healthy going into spring training. There's a lot of questions to answer. Number one, is his velocity going to be there? I think that's probably the big overwhelming question at this point in time. And even then, with Mason Thompson, you've seen him when he's 100% healthy. The inconsistencies are there. Can you trust that going into any given season as this guy being a legit relief kind of someone who's going to come in to shut down a game? I can't at this point. I have to see some more. Now, maybe he's a different version of himself. Maybe he's got a much improved curveball added to his rotation. I don't know at this point. We just don't know. We haven't seen him in over a year at this point. It's been a year and a half, really. So as far as Mason Thompson goes, I don't know what to expect with him, but he's kind of one of those forgotten names someone who, yes, he could be good, but really, are we going to bet on him being the guy out of this bullpen? I'm not at this point. Someone who I would bet on being the guy, and if I were to sit here today and guess who will be your Nationals closer in 2025, who is currently on this roster, I'd say left-handed pitcher Jose Ferrer. I've talked about this a lot with Jose Ferrer. I really like this kid. I think Jose Ferrer is going to be a very impactful bullpen piece, someone who might even be an all-star someday. That's how good I think Jose Ferrer can be. But he doesn't necessarily have like the stuff of a closer. It's kind of Sean Doolittle-esque, which does make sense considering Sean Doolittle is also on this pitching staff. I could see Jose Ferrer in a closing role. Is that going to be my preference for him? Not really. I more so see Ferrer as like an 8th inning, 7th inning kind of guy coming in and just pitching really well, someone that you can rely on each and every game. But also, when you're in that closing role, we're always talked about with Aroldis Chapman and Ryan Helsley for the St. Louis Cardinals and all the different guys who pump 100 miles per hour pitches. Jose Ferrer is not that type. He's not going to do that. But he does have nasty stuff, and you have seen, again, guys like Sean Doolittle do that up in the majors and do it at a very consistent rate. Maybe that's what Jose Ferrer is, and maybe that's the vision that the Washington Nationals have for someone of his caliber. Also, someone who was a flamethrower, but who had Tommy John surgery yet again, is Zach Brixey. Someone who was undrafted coming out of 2020 out of Virginia Tech, local-ish kid from Virginia. Zach Brixey is one of those guys where he had his opportunity this year, and he did not really run with it. But here's the thing. He does have potential to be a very good bullpen piece, again, for this Nationals org. Now, I'm not 100% sold on the idea of him getting back up, throwing to 100 miles per hour like you'd want to see from your closer, but he's not someone that I'm just going to discount and say, he'll be a 7th inning guy, 8th inning guy, but he does have potential. Overall, the state of the Nats bullpen with a few of these younger pieces, it's not in the best of shape, to say the least. You are going to have to address the closing position at this point. What would I do? I would go out there and sign Clay Holmes from the New York Yankees. And the reason why I would actually target him is, number one, he's had opportunities to close and he's been good at it in years past. And number two, when you are playing in New York, when you are a New York Yankee, when it is a sold-out Yankee Stadium and really a sold-out stadium wherever you go across the United States, there's a lot of pressure, just added pressure being a New York Yankee. We understand that, like, some guys can't really deal with that pressure. Like, think of it this way. Joey Gallo. He could not handle that when he got traded from the Rangers to the Yankees. When you think of other guys in years past, whether it be, I don't know, name that Yankee who hasn't panned out with them and then goes to a smaller market where there's not as much pressure, there's not as much spotlight on you, and they perform a lot better. That's kind of what I think with Clay Holmes. I think if he were to get out of that big market, out of that concrete jungle in New York, then you could have someone here in town that could be your closer for this season and hopefully for beyond. Because he's relatively young. He's got a ton of experience doing it. And you need some veteran presence in that bullpen that even Kyle Finnegan may not have been able to provide for this team. So if I'm the Nationals, the state of the bullpen right now, it's solid with a lot of prospects as well coming up. You have Marquise Grissom Jr., who I think could be something for this Nats team sometime this season. Got a couple of different pieces as well, whether it's Andrew Bennett or someone like that. Who knows? But the Nationals, they've got some ability in the bullpen. You just need to add a closer. I think that's going to be one of the things that the Nationals address over the upcoming weeks. But thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's talk about the Nationals' 20th anniversary. They've got a patch that they've unveiled for you and for the fans, for the players, whatever it is, they've got it covered. We'll talk about that after we tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, and get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. This weekend, I've got my eyes on the Bengals, Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Bengals. I've got Joe Burrow over in the passing yards, and as well as a Chase Brown anytime touchdown score. You will not want to miss that because the Commanders, they're in a bye week this Sunday. So we have our eyes on whoever the Cowboys are playing, and we root for them. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com, and never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So the Nationals have their 20th anniversary celebration all season long that we have seen them over years past do really well in. And I think the Nationals are actually really good in this category with giveaways and all sorts of different things. But kind of looking at it, the launch of Nats 20 is what they're calling it. It's a cheers to 20 years sweepstakes. They have features that are in-park giveaways with special alumni appearances and chances for fans to relive their favorite memories from the last 20 years of Nationals baseball. You'll have more details on this over the next few weeks when the Nationals unveil their giveaway calendar, and single game tickets will go on sale. And that is when you'll see all the bobbleheads and whatever else that could come. But I think it's a really cool thing. Again, the Nationals have been kicked around in the mud this offseason by their fans, by the media, and some of it's due. Like the Nationals, they know that they have to spend. You know that this is a huge offseason for you. The fans are anticipating a big one. They want a big fish coming into a big market, and we just haven't seen that at this point. But I do want to give them kudos for this Nats 20. I think it'll be really cool. I think fans will appreciate it in the giveaways. I guess we'll find out what they do moving forward. But of course, you guys enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. Go Nats.